guys, we are here with Inroble International episode 5. And today we're going to be talking about brake pads and how you can tell visually and also physically in your car when your brake pads are at the end of their life. So now I'd like to show you some examples of brake pad wear and how you can see for yourself what exactly is happening to your brake pads when you're out there on the street. First, I'd like to point out one of the most common ways that your brake pads will wear. This is one-sided or uneven wear. This happens due to less friction on one side of the brake pad versus the other. When you release the brakes, the pads will most likely continue to ride on the rotor as the caliper releases, creating more friction on one side versus the other. If this happens to you, it's best to replace the guide pins and bushings in your braking system and replace the pads altogether. The next type of wear I'd like to point out is when you get chipping and or cracking on your brake pads. This usually happens due to overuse of your brake pads, aka they are at the end of their life. The brake pads might possibly be defective. You may possibly also have a seized caliper or caliper components. There's a possibility that your parking brake is not retracting properly and is still grazing the brake pads on the rotor as you're driving. Simply replace the pads and break in your new pads properly to make sure that you don't get any more chipping. The same situation would happen with grooved wear on your brake pads. This is usually due to the overuse and improper install of your pads. Same as with chipping and cracking, very simply replace your brake pads and make sure that all the surrounding components are functioning properly. The last kind of wear that I'd like to mention to you is actually step-in lining, which means that your brake pads are not in full contact. And what this means is that you need to replace the guide pin that holds the brake pads in place to make sure that they are having full contact on the surface of the pad. This usually means that the bolt bushings and caliper hardware are not functioning properly. We have Eugene here again with us from Jevlan Auto. Thank you again, Eugene, for being here, a part of episode 5 with Inroble. So today we're talking about brake pad wear and getting you, one of the experts that deal with Inroble brakes and brake pads. We would love to get a little insight from you on brake pad wear. What type of everyday wear are we getting on our brake pads, and what should we be looking for to make sure that our brake pads are going to be working for us and making sure they're top shape?
Well, typical maintenance that your shop will provide you is making sure the surfaces that the pads slide on are clean. The brake sliders, calipers, you want to make sure that everything functions within spec and everything moves. If it's not moving, usually you'll seize up, brake pads will wear unevenly and one side or the other, and it just doesn't work properly. You'll get a spongy pedal, all different types of symptoms. So if you keep everything clean, functioning properly, your brake pads will wear as evenly as possible and give you the full life span of a brake pad.
Right, so let's say there's grooves on them. How as a driver would we be able to tell that?
Well, different cars have different ways of showing you. A lot of brake pads nowadays come with brake squealers or a little piece you put on, and as it gets down, it sounds like a person nails on a blackboard scraping. So you may hear it in reverse. No, it's not a nice sound. You'll hear it, you'll notice it. Or if it gets down to metal, then you're obviously hearing grinding, which a lot of people become familiar with when it becomes to the end of its service life. But typically, you should be able to hear some squealing from the brake pads with their indicators. Most brake pads come with indicators nowadays. So that gives you a forewarning that your brakes are wearing, or you have a light with a sensor that illuminates on your dash that tells you the same.
And we actually spoke about this in one of our previous episodes with the indicators that actually come up on your dash screen. And usually when you see that indicator, that little orange light telling you to replace your pads, come see a professional just like Eugene and
I'm gonna try to take care of it. Yeah.
Take care of it, absolutely. I know we had mentioned, and you had just said, it depends on your driving style.
And the vehicle application. Some cars will go 100,000, some will go further. Again, it comes down to your driving habits. If you're always on the highway, they wear down less. City drivers tend to wear out more. So you can go anywhere between 40 Most cars will do 50,000 nowadays, but anywhere, let's say from 50 up to 100, 120, depending on the vehicle application and the person's habits.
Okay, great.
So, and it's up to your mechanic to, your service professional to tell you when they're doing a service on your car, they observe the brakes, say, listen, you have 5,000, 10,000 left, and you can be forewarned and prepared.
Absolutely. Great. Eugene, thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.